Welcome to Bat Therapy, psychology of Batman, superheroes, and other comic book characters. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We are your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources. All good things must come to an end. End of season. Supervillain Superlatives. I'm so excited.
You know, for the record, this summer of infamy lasted well into the fall. It had a great villainous run.
Yeah, we started going into fall and we went, well, we like being accurate, but we're still having fun.
Villains do what they want. We don't have to
That's
listen
true.
to you. We don't care about global warming or the weather.
That's true. That's a great point. We are villains in and of ourselves. There you go.
You know what? No, it's still summer. This is all the work of Weather Wizard.
I like it. I like it.
That's what's happening here.
Yep.
But yeah, I've really absolutely enjoyed this last season because, like, I've always said, you stick the villain, you stick the landing. Like, that is, if you have a good, charismatic, fun villain, it really makes for a much better story. Because one of the things I think is always funny is for every superhero you can think of, and every single time they have like this set of supervillains to fight, but sprinkled in between there are like bank robbers and burglars and pickpockets. Like, there's always the standard thief. Like, even in like the Spider-Man games, it's like, hey, Doc Ock is on a rampage and you're swinging over there, but in between it's like, but also these guys just stole that guy's funnel cake and Spider-Man, go break their arm. Like, you know, there's always like the little villains in between. And so I always think that we have to appreciate the little guys too, for
That's fair.
for our heroes to get their practice in before they have to go fight the big bad guys.
That's true. Yeah. That actually might be a great place to start. So let's talk about like the little guys or the henchmen. Who do you think that they would most want to work for?
I think that in my mind, if we're talking just Gotham,
yeah, that might be good just to narrow it down a little.
If we're talking just Gotham, I would probably say Penguin.
I was totally thinking that too.
I would probably say Penguin just because Penguin is like, he's a standard businessman. Like, when Penguin goes, when Batman takes Penguin down, Penguin normally goes to Blackgate. He doesn't go to Arkham because he's like your standard crime boss with bird-like qualities. He's like a crime boss, but with a very specific hobby.
Yeah.
And he also operates where it's seemingly on the table, right? Like, like the Iceberg Lounge, like, it's a pretty cool place. Like, I would totally work at the Iceberg Lounge if there wasn't probably a shooting there every other week. And the thing is, like, you know, even in the Batman, the bouncers and stuff in the Iceberg Lounge got it really bad. But if I were a henchman in Gotham and Batman were walking up to me, I feel like I would have the common sense to just sidestep to the left and let Batman go exactly where he wanted to.
Yeah. To be fair, Batman was kind of new to the scene at that point, so henchmen had to learn quickly. But I do agree with you that at a certain point, you just got to give it to your henchmen that they're just going to step to the left
Right.
when Batman comes through. I agree. I agree that Penguin would probably be a good one to work for. Maybe Carmine Falcone, the
Yeah.
more gangster leaning ones versus the ones that are less predictable. Because also the one, like you said, kind of more of the business leaning side. Um, they have more of like a unit of people that work for them versus like the Joker who literally just cycles through people.
Absolutely. And like thinking back on it, if you're a henchman and you're trying to stay out of jail, let's just say you're attempting to stay out of jail, even though
I
you'll be
love
out.
that has to be clarified.
It needs to be clarified because even if you get locked up in Gotham, you're in there, what, 3 days and then you're back out
Oh yeah.
again. Like like you said, it's a cycle. But I feel like
Yep.
working for Oswald Cobblepot in one of his like shell businesses is your
Yeah.
only, even though it's minimal, it's still your only chance of possibly having any kind of health insurance, right?
Ah,
Like,
yeah.
because if you're trying to operate on the table, yeah, I
Yep.
think that's your best chance
That's a great point.
of having health insurance. Because I was gonna say any of our professors that went bad, but most of the time, before they go bad, they get fired from the university. So you're just screwed out of luck if you're their grad student because it's like, yep, sorry about your thesis, kick rocks. It's been real, right? Like
Oh
it's
man, I
rough.
didn't even think about the grad students.
Yeah.
How are they not their own, faction of villains? Oh,
Oh yeah. That would I think a grad student is a way better supervillain origin story
oh
than the
God, yeah.
professors.
God, yeah.
Imagine,
God.
right?
Oh,
Imagine, right? Because
I
that's
mean, it's a miracle that we aren't all super villains at this point.
right. Grad students get treated so horribly. We get treated so bad, and then but then it's our bosses that become the supervillains, which
Yep,
completely tracks. But
yep,
still,
yep. All right, so let's hit some of those common superlatives. Who would be most popular?
I think most popular. Um, due to mind control, I'm gonna say Poison Ivy.
Oh, I
Yeah,
like where your
I'm gonna
head's
say
at. I
Poison
like where your
Ivy.
head's.
Now, if I'm because I think it depends on the person. Like
Mm,
I think Bane would attract a lot of jocks, like a lot of ex football
mm,
players that couldn't
that's
maybe
that's a
didn't
fair
make
point.
it to the NFL. Right? They're like,
Yeah,
hey, that
yeah.
guy's strong. Yeah,
That's a
I
fair
can be,
point. That's
yeah,
a fair
I
point.
can be I'll work out with that guy. Right? Um, yeah, I still think Oswald would be very popular because I feel like he's one of those guys that's just always looking before people because he's always trying
Yeah.
to pretend he's doing what's right.
So so Penguin to me is that person who's always hanging out with the popular people but
Yeah,
isn't popular themselves. That's how I see Penguin.
that's true.
That's how
That's
I see
true.
Penguin. I do like what you said about Poison Ivy. See, because yeah, spinning it on its head. I mean, if she wanted to win the popularity contest, she could do it.
Now, if we go outside of Gotham, just down the road, I think Lex. I think
Mm.
Lex would definitely be the
He's got that
most.
charisma.
Oh yeah, he's very charismatic. He already has thousands of people working for him that are
Sure.
actually on the up and up. Like I feel bad for some of the people at LexCorp because it's like anytime he's had interactions with Batman, some poor security guard that just happens to be working there, sorry dude, your arm has to get broken because I'm going
Yeah.
after Lex. And it's like that guy didn't do anything, Batman. He had a badge and everything. Like he packed his lunch. Like it's
So, how about Class Clown? Do you think it's the Joker or do you think it's someone else?
class clown. Oh gosh. See, I think Harley is way funnier than Joker.
I agree with that actually. Yeah, cuz I mean, he jokes around, but the violence really does
Right.
take the edge off of the humor versus, yeah, I agree. And she's hysterical in the comics.
Yeah.
Anytime Harley Quinn is in a comic, I am laughing my ass
Yeah,
off.
she's hilarious. Yeah, I think Class Clown, I think I give it to Harley over uh over Joker. And then if we're talking about the Harley Quinn show, I think we
Oh,
give
man.
Kite Man a close second because he's the best.
He's like, most likely to run into a brick wall.
Right. Right. Like he's the best.
Yeah,
He's yeah,
he's
definitely
great. Oh, man, I always
self-deprecating
forget
humor.
I always forget about him. So good. Most likely to succeed at their villainy?
Ooh, most likely to succeed. I have to go with Ozymandias. I
Mm,
gotta go with him if we're talking most likely to succeed because damn if he did not succeed. Um if we are still just kind of hanging around Gotham, honestly, a lot of the times it seems like Mr. Freeze gets what he wants. Mr. Freeze gets what he wants. He
huh.
keeps like because it seems like every story I see with Mr. Freeze, it is him trying to illegally get something to keep doing research on his wife. He
Mm.
gets caught, and then Bruce is just like, here's money to keep researching for your wife while you're in jail. Like
Mm.
it happens so many times. And I'm like, you should maybe just start at Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah. That's actually a really fair point. Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. I was actually thinking, I mean, she doesn't always count as a villain, but Catwoman for that one.
Now, yeah, absolutely. For all the wrong reasons, right? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Catwoman does get away with it a lot because Batman just straight up likes her. She will break into a store, she'll steal, and it's funny because in my mind, that's who Batman should be anyway. Like, who cares about the person breaking into
Mm,
that store or robbing a billionaire? Like, who cares? Right?
yeah, yeah,
That's who he should be. And
right.
he lets Catwoman slide with all of it. Granted, they sleep together on a constant basis, but
Yeah, well.
um that's who I feel like Batman should be all the time. Like, oh, this here's someone just like breaking into a store, stealing CD players in 2020, right? Like,
You're stealing from these rich people and you're donating the money to save the tigers.
right,
All right, I've got other things to do.
right, right. I'm gonna go stop Joker from poisoning Gotham's water supply. And you know
Mhm.
what? I'll let you take that diamond ring that was probably illegally mined, right? Like, I should,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, yeah, I think, you know what? I agree. I think Catwoman gets away with the most. Um,
And
just
I would
because
argue too, like, yes, she uses her wiles to her advantage and she uses their relationship to her advantage, but she's also just really good.
she is. She is. We do have to give her credit that she is a hell of a cat burglar, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
she's really, really good. In the Batman Arkham games, in Arkham City, the second game, you get to play like a third of the game as her. And she's so
Oh.
fun to play as because she can like jump on the ceilings and climb and
Oh,
she had
cool.
like yeah, she just can do all these things with her whip. Like she's a lot of fun
Yeah.
to play as in the games. But she's another one that like when we talked about Class Clown, she has a really funny, dry sense of humor.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she's not so much the class clown, but she definitely has kind of a, like you said, the dry wit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
dry wit.
yeah.
But at the same time, I could also see her being like the prom queen. You know, I could
Mm.
easily see her also being that because she's always very interested in the way she does like dual lives. Whenever I see Selena
That's true.
Kyle, you'll see her in a ball gown, living it
Mm.
up at the Iceberg Lounge and ignoring Oswald Cobblepot, right? or
Yep.
she's just off stealing the Hope Diamond somewhere, right? Like she is like she's that villain I think that no one really sees as a villain.
Yeah. I would agree with that. She's definitely that question mark. That's why I was like, if we count her, when we count her.
We don't count her in Dark Knight Rises. I'm just gonna say that.
Well, okay, there's a difference between when you don't count her at certain times versus you pretending a movie doesn't exist. Hey, we haven't actually mentioned this as much this season as some others.
We
At some
haven't.
point, I know.
We haven't. Because Bane deserves better. Catwoman deserves better. Talia al Ghul deserves better. Like, what's to talk about? They did the worst version of all those characters in one movie.
All right, Keaton.
I say the worst version, but Bane and Batman and Robin was really bad.
God.
Because he had like this weird I am Groot thing going where he could only say Bane. Like it was weird.
So speaking of Bane, I think that he is one of the potential ones for this category, depending on how you define it. So what about biggest baddie?
Biggest baddie. Yeah. I think if we're talking Bat villains, I think Bane is near the top. I think Hush is near the top. Tommy Elliott. Yeah, I think he's way up there.
Yeah, you've got to have one of those that can like manipulate things behind the scenes.
Ra's al Ghul. I think he's definitely way up there just because
that's a really good point. Yeah.
He never goes away. Like he's like, okay, yeah, I am dead. See you next week.
Never mind.
Same bat time, same bat channel. And my daughter also has the hots for you. So see you soon, Batman.
Steal your sperm.
Keep raising my grandkid. Thanks, bats. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think he's also biggest baddie, but at the same time, I do think there's a reason they call the Joker the crown prince of crime. Because it's one thing to be a villain that regular people and heroes fear. It's another thing to be a villain that every other villain is terrified of.
That's a good point.
Right?
That is a
like
good point.
Anytime the Joker shows up, it's just like, oh God, oh no. Like I think that I had heard that before Heath Ledger's unfortunate passing, there was gonna be a part in Dark Knight Rises when Bane releases all of the supervillains and there's one jail cell and he's like, nope, keep that one closed. I remember hearing something about that and I'm like, you know what? That works. Because if you let him out, somehow that nuke goes missing.
Yep.
Somehow it ends up filled with Joker gas and even worse. Like, solve a game, play a game of tic-tac-toe with me or else I'm going to set it off. Like, you never know what he's going to do. He's such a wild card that every single villain is like, oh, gosh, I don't want to deal with this guy, right? Like, even when, and so I think biggest baddie, I would give it to him just because he's just so unhinged and unpredictable.
Yeah. And he still has that calculating mindset behind things in most representations. So I'll give you that one because I do think you need that conniving behind the scenes manipulation, but like death of a family, I always bring that one up just because I think it's just such a good example of just how maniacal he can be despite all the chaos that's layered on top.
And what's interesting is when you think about most of Batman's villains, they all have the potential to be successful. There's always just a little bit of something holding them back. It's like when we did when we covered Riddler this season, his one bad day story, when he just went straight cold and was like, you know what? No more riddles. No more riddles, no more games.
Oh God, I forgot about
Yeah, he was terrifying. He was
that.
absolutely
Yeah.
terrifying when he went
He went
from
dark.
riddle me this Batman to just straight up flatline, like equilibrium. Like it was
Yeah.
scary.
That was scary.
That was also really scary because he's like, I can do whatever I want and you can't stop me unless. And then it rolls credits before we see it.
Okay. How about now I know some of them are trying to do this on purpose, so we won't count them, but
Okay.
most likely to accidentally change the world for the better.
Hmm. That's a fun. Gosh. I don't want to say poison ivy because of global warming.
Yeah, but is she going for that though?
I feel like she kind of is. Well,
Yes, I don't know if
she's
it'd be an
going for
accident
like
for her.
plant superiority. It's weird.
I guess you're right. Like technically, it could be cool, just like a side effect.
Yeah. Um Gosh. So most likely to make the world a better place by
Yep.
accident.
Yep.
Oh gosh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I tell you. Um, I think that if we hmm, 'cause there's so many villains that I think mean well, but
Yep.
end up going too far. Like basically almost
Yeah.
all of the Spider-Man villains start out that way. Like a whole lot of Spider-Man villains start out that way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Um, I mean, we look at Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2, he was just going for clean energy, right? Like that would have been nice, right? Without the arms that got in your head and made you all erratic. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Who do you have for that one?
I don't know. I I don't know why. I think it's because he's kind of a goofball character. I feel like the Mad Hatter could accidentally stumble into improving the world without meaning to.
Yeah,
Um, I
like
don't know, just like he's trying to control people to like steal or I don't know, and he just kind of fumbles into making things better. I don't know. There's something just about his character that I could see him accidentally kind of going and doing the opposite of what he planned to do.
yeah. I was thinking about some of the Flash's villains because a lot of Flash's villains, it's
Ah.
like, they're not too bad outside of Reverse Flash. Reverse Flash is never included in his little thing of rogue villains because, like, I guess what I'm getting stuck on is accidentally making
Yeah.
the
Well,
world.
if we remove the accidentally and we just say the world a better place, are you thinking poison ivy?
I, I am, but at the same time, if Mr. Freeze was given unlimited funding to complete his research, the amount
Ah,
of healthcare breakthroughs that I think he would come up with while doing that
interesting. Yeah.
would
I
be
mean, I
extremely
I
significant.
I think a lot of people would be on the wrong end of that science.
Yes, absolutely.
And at the same time, I think you might be technically correct.
Absolutely. And we can't forget Ozymandias did technically prevent nuclear war. It was in the worst way possible, but
He did
he did prevent
it.
nuclear war. He did.
How about most likely to have a full set of fake teeth?
A full set of fake teeth.
Yep.
Oh
So they
god.
lost all their teeth due to their criminal activities.
You are now entering Gotham. Oh my gosh.
I know. I was like, does anyone have any real
Oh my
teeth anymore
gosh.
with
I think
Batman?
the only villains that might lose more teeth than the Gotham villains might be like the Powerpuff Girl villains. Like just because Powerpuff Girls are always 3 versus 1. It's always just you're getting jumped every
Oh yeah.
time. Um, yeah, I don't even think Joker has any real teeth. Um, at this point, because every time you see him, he's spitting out like the fake teeth that like jump around and stuff. I don't even think he has any teeth left. But uh, yeah,
Dennis must make a killing in Gotham.
they most definitely do. They most
But I
definitely do.
can you but I mean, can you imagine doing a root canal though on like Two-Face?
Right. Yeah,
It'd
you
be
know what? Now that I'm
terrifying.
thinking about it, you would say they make a killing, but like, do they have to go to Blackgate and Arkham to do
Mm,
their work? Because that's
that's probably the safest way to do it other than
yeah, safest, but at the same time, are you putting Croc's teeth back in his mouth?
Yeah. Speaking of, that was another one I had. Who do you think Killer Croc would consider the tastiest?
The tastiest.
Yeah. This is, of course, the rendition of him that eats people.
I'm thinking Oswald. Thinking Penguin. I mean,
That's
he's
fair.
already named after a bird. Nice and plump.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Mr. Freeze would be a little too cold.
Yeah. Bane would be very lean. He'd be the filet mignon, I think, of.
But you can't trust those chemicals running through his
That is
system.
true. Definitely not organic.
Now, poison ivy, that's organic.
Absolutely. That is, yeah, that might be healthy. Yeah. Hmm. Again, though, there's some chemicals in there. I don't know if you could trust them, even though they're natural. Hmm. This reminds me of that horrible, horrible part in Batman and Robin when she Poison Ivy kisses Robin
Oh, right, yeah.
and she's like, time to die. And, and he peels off rubber lips that he put on. even
Oh,
even
yeah.
as a kid watching that scene, I'm like, I can't believe I put this in my VCR. Right? Like like I did this. I did this to myself. Like
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. It's amazing.
oh yeah, it's great. It's great. But I think he would definitely eat Oswald because Oswald would also be the easiest to catch.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, he's pretty lean in Gotham, but in most renditions of him.
Maybe Man Bat though.
Oh.
Maybe he would eat Man Bat, a fellow animal.
Mm. Or would he prefer to eat a straight up human?
I don't know.
He might empathize with a fellow creature.
Maybe.
Humanoid creature. I don't
Yeah.
even know how to describe it.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all the ones I have. Do you have any others we should think through?
Yes. Yes. So I think, like I said, who is the most likable? The most likable villain? Because who did we say? Because we said most
Mm.
most popular, like, oh yeah, Lex, but like
Yeah, but that's different. That's
it's
different.
different.
Yeah.
Like who's a likable villain? Like, man, that guy's okay.
So I think Harley Quinn could maybe win this one too.
Okay.
Um, I definitely lean toward her a bit for that. Hmm. Thoughts that I might put in there. No, I just think there's something about her. She's disarming for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So she gets along with a lot of different characters.
Yeah. I've always liked Captain Boomerang. He's always been a
Ah,
fun one to
that's a good point. Yeah, he's got that easygoing,
yeah.
jovial thing
Yeah,
going
he's
on. Yeah,
Australian too. Like they're always laid back and cool.
that's true. The accent wins you friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
Um so we had the superlatives, but like I know we talked about did we talk about who would be the worst to work for? Because we talked about who you would want
Mm,
to work for the most.
Yeah.
Who would you not want to work for? Because my first thought was Joker.
Sure. Yeah.
My first thought was Joker. But then I started thinking about how, like, Ozymandias has zero issue making you expendable
Mm.
for his overall plan. And I feel like Joker is somebody you could halfway survive if you just kept your head down.
Yeah. So if we're talking purely fear based, I think Joker wins out for me. But if we're talking about like if we're talking about someone that I might want to work for, I think that Two Face would be really irritating to work with.
Yes, I was thinking about Harvey Dent. I was
Right?
just
How
because
Yeah, I mean, first off, who are you getting? Who are you talking to? And then second of all, any decision you all are trying to make has to be made by a coin. So you're constantly having to stop and wait for the fates to be sided by the flip of a coin. That would get old fast.
that would get old fast, especially because like there's no guaranteed itinerary,
Yeah,
right?
I like having a
Yeah.
plan, you know?
Yeah.
So I would love working for Catwoman, although I would be pretty worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up with her. I don't think I'd be good enough for her, but maybe like Poison Ivy. I think I could work for Poison Ivy pretty good, but
You-
yeah, Two Face. Like I need more of a plan than that.
I'd like to think I could work with Poison Ivy, but at the same time, I feel like I would still be constantly walking on eggshells. Like
Yeah, that's
I
true.
put something in I put something wrong in recycling. Um
See, I would be down for that. I hate when the water gets kept on. I hate when we're like, even if we're like recycling when we didn't even need something in the first place. I like the whole minimalist idea. So I'm for it. Let's do this thing, Poison Ivy.
yeah, but like how far does it go? Like does she get upset if I eat a salad? You
What are
know?
you supposed to eat?
Right. Like that's the thing because I mean, she's just photosynthesizing it up. Like she's fine.
Is
But
that true?
I believe I mean, I think she's green because of the chlorophyll in her skin. Yeah.
Oh, I never really thought about that before.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Which sometimes she's not all green though. Like it
That's
depends.
true.
Sometimes she's just
Yeah.
wearing like skimpy green clothing.
Yeah.
It goes
Yeah.
back and forth.
Hmm.
I don't
I'm
know.
trying to
Like,
think who else would annoy me to work for. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them would annoy me to work for, actually.
yeah, I know Joker would definitely be one of those that's annoying to work for because
Yeah, yeah.
he doesn't really care at all about anything except what's the most chaotic route.
Yeah. Yeah, that would get old pretty fast. And he would be one of those bosses that's just kind of blind to the morale of the workplace.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, oof. I wouldn't want. I think I would want to. I probably wouldn't mind work. I probably wouldn't mind working for Lex. I probably wouldn't mind
Mm,
working for Lex just as long as it wasn't like anywhere near him. Like
I get that. I get
anywhere
that.
near him. Because the thing is, Superman is constantly saving everyone in Metropolis. It's not like he doesn't like pick and choose. He's like, I'll if they're in need, I'll save them. So like
Mm,
I'm probably safer in Metropolis overall. And
mm,
Lex does so much good for the world. He just gets infatuated with Superman. Like
mm,
if he could just keep that tunnel vision locked in, this man was
yeah.
president. He was not only president, he was a good president.
Yeah.
He just could
That's fair.
not
That's fair.
handle Superman.
All right, you might be winning me over with that one. And to be fair, I think I'd be down for working for the Al Ghouls for similar reasons, like level head about a lot of things, really think through their plans, like train up their people, very competent. Granted,
Yeah.
yeah, they're trying to save the world by taking down civilizations. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, the thing I don't like about Ra's al Ghul is like they're a lot like Hydra. They're a lot like Hydra.
mm,
Like they have this plan of we'll kill a million, but it's so a billion will be fine, right?
yeah.
And it's like yikes. And even then though, like I say that, but I'm only going off Hydra's plan in specifically Captain America the Winter Soldier, which
Yeah, yeah,
I'm only going off that because the other
yeah,
Hydra, they're just like Nazis and like screw those
yeah,
guys. Like, no,
yeah,
they're no. But
yeah.
Ra's al Ghul is actually like, oh wow, Gotham's too corrupt. It can't be saved. Let's blow up this hospital. Like, what? No, that's not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
answer. They specifically didn't do anything. Like, that's an elementary school, bro. Like, they haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah, there is that issue. Ooh, I thought of someone else I would really hate to work for. I would get so irritated working for the Riddler.
Oh God.
I mean, it depends which rendition, but
Yeah.
the one someone who just like can't be serious when they need to be serious. That's a struggle point for me.
Mr. Nigma, what would you like for lunch? Yes. It's like, oh my God. No. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Here's the box of menus. I'm going home.
Oh my god, it would get so old
Like,
so
how many times
fast.
would you be trying to work and like you get the email notification? It just says the title, riddle me this. I'm like, no, I have expense reports to do.
And you know what the Riddler would do? He would lock everyone's computer until you were able to guess his riddle.
Oh
You know
yeah.
he'd do
Here's the
that.
daily password. If you want to go to work, you're gonna have to solve this riddle. I would, oh my God, I would quit. I would quit so fast. I'm like, I hate you. I
Oh
hate,
my
I
god,
hate
it'd be
this way. I
so
hate this
terrible.
place. Yeah. That would be, oh God, that would be extremely frustrating. But I think every villain, no matter what villain you work for, if they're anywhere near Gotham, you're going to have to constantly listen to them vent about how much they
Mm.
hate Batman all day,
Yeah.
except Joker, because Joker just finds Batman fun
Oh,
and
yeah.
different, and he's just infatuated with them. But like, you're working in the office and you just hear Bane over there just mumbling and angry, and then he tosses the desk and you have to duck because it just slams against the wall. Like it's a hazardous work environment regardless. But you know what's worse? In my mind, I would probably be a Gotham henchman before I ever worked at Ace Chemicals. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell they make at Ace Chemicals. But every time I see it, it's like an like OSHA's worst nightmare. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
like here's giant vats of overflowing boiling chemicals. And if you want to get to them, you have to walk on these rusty stairs. Like everything
Yeah.
at Ace Chemicals is just I would definitely take my chances being a Gotham henchman than being guaranteed carcinogen exposure at
Yeah.
Ace Chemicals.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, they don't have very good safety features. People fall into those vats all the time,
Right.
and who knows what you're getting from the fumes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I'd rather be a henchman. There are a lot of ways to be
I'll take it. Yeah.
a much safer ways to be a henchman.
Yeah. I would say like yeah, and I would want to like if I had to be there, I would probably want some kind of job that like mechanic. You know what?
Mm.
Villains need their cars fixed.
Yep.
Batman needs his car fixed. Commissioner Gordon needs his car fixed when he drives to the bat signal. You know, that's not. I assume that's all. That's the only place I ever see him.
Do you think they turn a blind eye? Like, okay, I know this mechanic sees everybody. Like, our mechanic's
Absolutely.
neutral.
Like, yeah, bro, this is just an oil change. Like, I don't know.
I don't care who you are,
I was
what you
under the
do on your
car. I didn't
time.
see who was in it. I keep my headphones on. I didn't hear anyone screaming in that trunk. Nope. Nope. This is just a Jiffy Lube. That's all it is. And I just want to go home.
Yep. I definitely agree with you. Just being someone who does a job for the villains rather than working more directly for them would
So,
be
who do you
beneficial.
who do you think is scarier?
Mm.
The run of the mill, clearly you know they are a villain,
Uh-huh.
or the millionaire that to the naked eye not only looks like they're on the straight and narrow, but like they're seemingly a good person, right? Because one of the ones that I thought about that we haven't talked about yet is Homelander.
Ah.
The idea of like, because Homeland is basically if you took the idea of like, wow, Superman, he's the best,
Mhm.
he's amazing, he's awesome, I love that guy, and suddenly you find out he's the most evil
Yep.
person on the planet, right? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like that's more scary, which another one, I definitely would not want to work for Vought. Would
Nope,
not
nope,
want to
nope, nope,
work
nope.
for Vought at
I wouldn't wanna work for anybody in My Boys.
all.
Or
No,
in The
in
Boys,
the
excuse
boys.
me, in The Boys. Yeah.
Nope.
No, thank you. No, I mean, there are some people who, like, are decent, but they're never the people in charge.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, thank you. If you live in the world of The Boys, just live the best life you can for that short little opportunity you do before you die
Yeah.
some miserable death.
No major city. I'm definitely in the suburbs.
True.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
in actually any of these scenarios. I live in the suburbs. I might work in the city. But
There
I
you go.
want to live, I want to be able to sleep somewhere where I'm not worried.
Mm,
Right? Like, oh, Brainiac's attacking the city. I'm like, oh good, I take the subway 45 minutes every day to get there. So I'm
yep.
fine.
And it has to be the suburbs because, like take Smallville. A lot of shit goes down in the countryside too.
We have to remember how far fetched Smallville is. I I've I'm currently working on a list of places that kryptonite just happens to be in Smallville, and it's funny. It's in the perfume. It's in the food. It's it's just like, oh my god, I was gonna play football, but it's kryptonite. Like what? Like it doesn't even make. But yeah, like yeah, it. Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff goes down in Smallville. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The small towns aren't safe either. I mean,
They're
even
not safe either.
in
Yep.
Man of Steel, Smallville got wrecked.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, Smallville gets wrecked in a lot of different storylines.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, maybe not. Maybe not Smallville. Um, but yeah, I think I feel like the scariest villains are the ones that are seemingly good on the
Mm,
outside, right? Like if I'm hanging out and I see the Joker, I know to run the other way.
yeah. Well, and you're talking about the scarier one. It's I mean, there's a more visceral reaction to the Joker, but I definitely agree with you that that's that's a protective factor,
Right.
right? You see the Joker and and you run away. It's kind of like, a bear jumps out in the middle of a hike. But if you have someone who is not as obviously a villain, you don't know to get out of their way.
Right. Because a lot
Which
of
is
yeah.
also, it's also an interesting point for their henchmen too, is
Yeah.
the Joker, to be on guard the whole time,
Yeah.
but
You do. And also there's certain villains that um they're not the ones that get their hands dirty. They make the plans,
true.
they hire the guys, then they're, oh, I don't know what to tell you. I was at this gala while all that was going on.
Yeah,
Wasn't
that's true.
me, you know?
Hush was a bit like that.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
Oswald. Oswald is too.
Yeah.
A lot of time.
That's true.
Oswald
That's
is
true.
too. It's like, oh yeah, he was behind
Well,
that, but you never knew.
but once again, okay, Oswald was behind it. You get in trouble for it, but you probably have a 401k. You've got some healthcare go. Like you're gonna end up with a broken jaw at some point either way.
Yeah.
So you might as well go with the guy who's unloading it on you, but he probably pays you better.
Right. Like Lex pays well. Like
Oh yeah.
people at LexCorp don't look disappointed.
Yeah.
Except the ones that are doing his evil underground experiments that end up becoming villains
Mm,
of their own because of some of the stuff that he did.
yeah.
And then yeah, I don't we haven't really touched on Marvel much, but I feel like, somebody like Magneto, he's fine until you really you piss him off, right? Leave mutants
Mm,
alone and you're probably cool. He's probably cool with you. He probably doesn't
yeah.
like you, but he's
Yeah.
probably cool with you. Like, you stay over there. Don't say anything bad about mutants. Don't breathe on mutants the wrong way. And we're cool for
I
now.
don't know though. Yeah, I think it could be a poison ivy situation where you don't know what's gonna rile him up.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, like, what the scariest thing to me about Poison Ivy is her her reach. Her
Mm.
reach, right? Like houseplants, you got to be worried about your own houseplants when it comes to Poison Ivy. Like don't do her wrong. Don't do her wrong cuz at any moment it could go from succulent to Little Shop of Horrors just like
True.
that, right? Like
Yeah.
and so like you got to be worried about her. Plus I have allergies and so I
Mm.
definitely am. She's at the bottom of my list, just because
Yeah.
Zyrtec, Claritin, Flonase, all the above, all the above, and so
That's fair.
got to think
That's fair.
about that. Unless she could cure it, maybe. All right. What about you? So, did you say that you would probably work for Oswald if you had your choice?
No, I think I'd work for poison ivy.
Ivy?
Yeah, I'd work for poison ivy. Cuz I mean, I think she treats her people well as long as they treat her plants well. And I'm I'm I think there are a lot more plants I'd like to stay alive than people and
Yeah.
in that world. Yeah, I think I could get down with what she's doing and kind of move, all those like creature plants. That'd be pretty cool.
That could be potentially fun. Again, it's one of those things where I think you would be happiest working there because at the end of the day, if she gets what she wants, you're going to stop global warming,
There you go.
right? And still, you're probably, with all the different plants, you're looking at probably and hopefully some different medications that could do some amazing things,
Mm,
right? So
yep.
you never really know. But one thing I can say is uh I love a good I love a good villain. And I feel like what makes Batman so special, I mean, we've talked about villains from all the different universes and all different characters villains, but what makes Batman I think so special is because he has such a very unique and charismatic rogues gallery.
Mm,
Like he
yeah.
really does. Like he just has all of them. And there's some that I'm excited to talk about that we didn't even get to, you know? Professor Pig, Firefly,
Oh,
Killer
I take it
Moth.
back. He might be the most terrifying.
He is
I hate Professor Pig. He creeps me
he
out.
is scary. Yeah. Yeah, he's a rough one. He's a rough one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
he lines up there with Joker for me, I think, in the ones I would least like to work with.
yeah.
Aside from, Two-Face being annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but yeah, like there's so many that we haven't even talked about that are so interesting because and another thing too is all of these villains have such different motives, right? Oswald wants money. Oswald wants money
Yeah.
and power, but outside of him, Firefly just wants to burn everything to the ground. Poison Ivy just wants to cover the world with plants. Catwoman, I don't know what she wants besides Batman and diamonds, right? Like, but besides that, a lot of the times she's helping poor people. A lot of the times, like she still protects her own. Like she still has people that
Yeah.
she looks out for a lot. Mr. Freeze, he just wants his wife back by any means necessary. Um, Bane, he wants to prove a point. He's just out to prove a point. Like, look at me. I beat Batman, right?
Yeah.
Harvey, heads or tails. You never know. But yeah, like all of them are so different, and that's what makes them so interesting. That's what makes them so interesting. That's what makes uh Batman so interesting because he has to interact with all of them so differently because in order to focus and take them down, he has to basically at least get on the same wavelength with them to figure out how to take them down. It's what makes him the world's greatest detective. It's what makes him the absolute best hero ever, the way that he can foil the plans of 1,000 different plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JVS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/battherapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.